But really, the community thing is a huge thing. Like, because I live in the city, again, I interact with all my neighbors. The suburbs are so isolating. You're just out there by yourself. Some people are probably saying, no, I'm not. I that's fine if you're not. But in my experience, I felt pretty isolated. I mean, I felt like I had to drive about 15, 20 minutes to get anywhere. I have a lot of other issues with the suburbs. I mean, I think the lawns are horrible. The whole concept of having grass, which is usually not native to that area that the grass is growing in. I think a lot of the American grass is grown somewhere in originally from England, is I think what I've read. And
why do people have grass? Is it just like a looks thing?
Well, yes, it's 100% cosmetic. They could be vegetable gardens or nothing. They could just be nature do its thing. Whatever it would have been. Grasses, and it's illegal in a lot of communities to not have a lawn. Lawn care is a huge thing. Do you know why? Like what? It's aesthetically pleasing.
Like they want to keep the status of the neighborhood high so that it has a better reputation, so people will buy houses.
Precisely.
That's crazy. I did learn that pretty recently. Like I think last year I was like, wait, grass isn't. That's not just there. Like, you know what I mean?
So like, I mean, the whole concept of like the suburbs that you and I grew up in is a really new kind of thing. Like smaller towns that have been around forever, that's a little bit different. Like you look at a town like New Hope or Manville, that's a bit different. But like, I grew up in Hillsborough, and if you look at a town like Piscataway, that's kind of an experimental area is how I look at it now, because that's only been like when my grandparents moved to Hillsborough. There were 1,000 people living there. That's like nobody.
Now, what about farming, though? You do need farms in a more suburban area, right?
That should just be farmland, I think.
Okay. Is that what you're saying? Like, nobody should be... Okay.
I think it should just be farmland, and people should live closer to each other.
Gotcha. I got it.
But wait, here's the issue I wanted to get to. Is like the issue with that, as I've come to understand, is... Did you grow up with a septic tank?
I don't know. I actually don't know. You did.
You grew up in Boundbrook, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did not.
Okay.
You had city plumbing. There were pipes that went under your house and took the sewage into, gave you water and took the sewage into a water treatment plant.
Okay.
If you live in a city like Philadelphia, or even I think probably Boundbrook is probably fine too, where it's all gridded and it's a small area, it's manageable to do that. In a town where I grew up in, which is like 50 square miles, which is like the size of Staten Island, those winding pipes have so much farther to travel. It's a lot harder. So everything has a life span. What happens when those miles and miles of pipes eventually fail, which everything does, it's going to be absurdly expensive to replace. And most people, I'm getting way too technical, I think.
No, you're good. I'm following,
when that does fail, it's going to be so much more expensive than to fix it in Philly, because you'll have to drive all the way. You're gonna have to drive more miles to serve less people. For example, you have about 40 neighbors just on your side of the street right here. They're all paying property taxes. They're all contributing to that sewage. Multiply that by, in Hillsborough, where there's 30 feet between each house, that same plot of land will have 4 houses. So 4 versus 40, you're getting like a tenth of the money to pay for those services. It just doesn't make sense.
It's funny. We were just talking about conservation of energy heat-wise. So right now I'm living in Philadelphia in a row house. Mm-hmm. It's like a townhouse row house. It's like I don't know. To me, it's like a long, skinny apartment. It feels like. It's right now I have my heat set to 60 and the thing reads about 69 degrees. So what he was explaining to me is because of the houses being closer together and being made of brick, anybody in this building, like, because it's like a large building of row houses, kind of maybe like 6 or 7 or 8 row houses all in one building, if they have their heat on, that actually heats up the entire building, so you don't even need to use as much energy. So there's other things like that living in a city would contribute to less energy usage.
There are all kinds of benefits. I think that, like, if someone, I'll try and temper what I said before. If someone wants to like live by themselves and not have any neighbors, maybe for sound reasons or any other reason that they want to, that's fine. And I do not think that those towns are built to have city-like services like grid plumbing and electric and gas, though. And if you're gonna live in the country, live in the country. Kind of like live in a cabin or live like how people lived in Hillsborough before 1970. where you had a septic, and which is just like just to explain what that is. That's like a giant vat or tank that you put all of your waste into, and then someone comes and cleans it. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And they have well water, and there's all different things, and there are still some people in like that town that do that, but like most towns, these sprawling suburbs have city like services now, and my mind is boggled at how outside of like you can take out debt forever, I guess, but like it's weird. I feel like I've gotten way too technical on your show.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I have a quick question because I know you study history as well. I didn't realize that some historical time periods had advanced civilizations. Like, did the Romans have a plumbing system?
Yes.
Is that right? Well, how did they do it? What did they do? So
they had this thing called aqueducts. I am not extremely versed in how it works, but it's very it's for the time it's much more similar to modern plumbing than what was had for the next 1,000 years. They dump. Someone should look that up. I don't want.
Yeah, I don't have a fact checker, but I do know they had plumbing. Fact, I never knew that until, and again, another thing I learned this year. I'm like, that's crazy. That's wild to me.
Well, it's wild because where did it go? Right. Yeah. Like, how did people decide? You know what? Yeah, I don't like this. We're gonna shit outdoors again. We're gonna throw it in a bucket and dump it out on the street. That was the choice that was made by society. But it's more complicated. We're kind of getting there
in our society too. I've seen some human fecal matter on the streets here. Okay, now we're gonna get into some questions.